our third week vlog, and today we are going to discuss to you about the authentic assessment of the affective domain. Affective targets. Whereas cognitive assessments measure what students can do, affective assessments measure what students will do in the future. Affective domain describes learning objectives that emphasize a feeling tone, an emotion, or a degree of acceptance or rejection. Why we assess affective domain? First is to verify competence in the affective domain. Second, to serve as a method to try and change learners' behavior. Third, to detect undesirable behaviors such as abuse of patients, illegal activity, or etc., which warrant immediate suspension from the school education program. So there are effective targets in making authentic assessments. We have attitudes. Why we study attitudes? Attitudes influence the way a person acts and think in a social communities below. They can function as frameworks and reference for coming conclusions and interpreting or acting for against an individual's a concept or an idea. It influences behavior. Students will behave in ways consistent with their attitudes.
Interests. Personal preference for certain kinds of activities. It is a quality that attracts your attention and makes you want to learn more about something or to be more involved in something. Motivation. Desire and willingness to be engaged in behavior, including intensity of involvement. There's two kinds of motivation: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when students do something or engage themselves in activities because they find the activities interesting, enjoyable, or challenging. Extrinsic motivation is doing something because it leads rewards or punishment. Values, importance, worth, or usefulness of modes or conduct and end states of existence. Mode of conduct are manifested in what a person believes is appropriate and needed in everyday existence, such as being honest, cheerful, ambitious, loving, responsible, and helpful. End states of existence refer to a conditions and aspects of oneself and kind of world that people want, such as safe life, world peace, freedom, happiness, social acceptance, and wisdom. The value and the simple value target. Honesty. Students should learn to value honesty in their dealing with others. Integrity. Students should firmly observe their own code of values. Justice. Students should support the view that all citizens should be the recipients of equal justice from government law enforcement agencies. And freedom. Students should believe that democratic countries must provide the maximum level of freedom to their citizens.
What is self-concept? Self-concept is how you perceive your behavior, abilities, and unique characteristics. For example, beliefs such as I'm a good friend or I am a kind person are part of an overall self-concept. Self-concept tends to be more malleable when you're younger and still going through the process of self-discovery and identity formation. As you age and learn how you are and what's important to you, these self-perceptions become much more detailed and organized. At its most basic, self-concept is a collection of beliefs one holds about oneself and the responses of others. It embodies the answer to the question, who am I? Locus of control is a psychological concept that refers to how strongly people believe that They have control over the situations and experiences that affect their lives. In education, locus of control typically refers to how students perceive the causes of their academic success or failure in school. Students with an internal locus of control generally believe that their success or failure is a result of effort and hard work. They invest in their education. Students with an external locus of control generally believe that their successes or failure results from external factors beyond their control, such as luck, fate, circumstance, injustice, bias, or teachers who are unfair, prejudiced, or unskilled. For example, student with an internal locus of control might blame poor grades or their failure to study, whereas students with an external locus of control may blame an unfair teacher or test for their poor performance. According to psychologist Albert Bandura, self-efficacy is our belief in our ability to succeed in certain situations. The concept plays a major role in Bandura's social learning theory, which focuses on how personality is shaped by social experience and observational learning.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Anxiety is one of the affecting factors which plays an important role in learning and teaching process. This article deals with the concept of anxiety, its measures, and it contributes the learners and the teaching.
Creativity.
Creativity. Creativity assessment attempts to measure an individual's potential for creativity, which is defined as one of the ability to generate novel, useful ideas. There is no single defining test used to measure creativity. Creativity is not memorizing information. It's building knowledge and developing skills using creative techniques rather than dictating how information should be absorbed. Creative education guides the learners through the instruction process using creative methods. Epistemological, describing individual representations or beliefs about knowledge and knowing. As a guide teaching behavior and attitudes toward issues in the classroom, describes teaching beliefs about how knowledge is acquired. Should be consistently used to refer the person's beliefs about the nature of the human's knowledge, like as certainly and how it's conceptualized, and it's the person's beliefs about the criteria of the process of knowing.
Assessment of affective domain is one of the requirements of the 21st Teaching Learning Proposition. A holistic approach is required so as to have a meaningful evaluation of students' learning. Both traditional and authentic assessment tools are used to be utilized to come up with a good and quality results. Methods of assessing effective learning targets. There are three feasible methods of assessing affective traits and dispositions. These methods are teacher observation, student self-report, and peer rating. Teacher observation. Teacher observation is one of the essential tools for formative assessment. In using observation, the first thing to do is to determine in advance how specific behavior relates to the target. This behavior may serve as a vital input in how to perform observation, particularly the teacher's observation. Student self-report. There are varied ways to express students' affect as self-report. The most common and direct way is while having casual conversation or interview. Students can also respond to a written questionnaire or survey about themselves or other students. Peer rating or appraisal is the least common method among the three methods of assessing affective. Assessment of affective domain is one of the requirements of the 21st Teaching Learning Proposition. A holistic approach is required so as to have a meaningful evaluation of students' learning. Both traditional and authentic assessment tools are used to be utilized to come up with a good and quality results. Methods of assessing affective learning targets. There are three feasible methods of assessing affective traits and dispositions. These methods are teacher observation, student self-report, and peer rating. Teacher observation. Teacher observation is one of the essential tools for formative assessment. In using observation, the first thing to do is to determine in advance how specific behavior relates to the target. This behavior may serve as a vital input in how to perform observation, particularly the teacher's observation. Student self-report. There are varied ways to express students' affect as self-report. The most common and direct way is while having casual conversation or interview. Students can also respond to a written questionnaire or survey about themselves or other students. Peer rating or appraisal is the least common method among the three methods of assessing affective.
Other effective measures and assessment. Non-test indicators. Non-test indicators is an alternative assessment in the sense that it diverges from the paper and pen test. These are tests that do not force the students to give their responses according to Recon 2011, but rather allow the students to manifest their acquired knowledge and skills from the subject. This is one of the authentic assessment methods that is able to zoom in the effectiveness and efficiency of the employed teaching methodologies, techniques, and styles. There are types of non-test indicators. The first is the portfolio. Portfolio is a purposeful collection of students' works that exhibit the students' efforts, progress, and achievements in one or more areas of the curriculum. Next is teacher observation. The teacher observes the students while they work to make certain the students understand the assignments and their own tasks. Example of these are cooperative learning. Next is journal. Students write daily on assigned or personal topics. Example, what is the thing you remembered about yesterday's lesson? Next is slates or hand signals. Students use slates or hand signals as a means of signaling answers to the teacher. Example, review questions or write answer and hold up a slate. Next is games. Teachers utilize fun activities to have students practice and review concept. Example of this is science trivia project. The student research a topic and present it in a creative way. Next is debates. The students takes opposing positions on a topic and defend their position. Example, the pros and cons of environmental legislation. Transversal competencies. Transversal competencies are competencies that are transferable between jobs. They are what used to be described as experience. Some people have labeled them soft skills or emotional intelligence. What are the transversal competencies? These are the types of transversal competencies: critical and innovative thinking, critical thinking, innovative thinking, creativity, resourcefulness, application skills, reflective thinking, presentation skills, decision making, communication, leadership, organizational skills, interpersonal skills, teamwork, collaboration, initiative, self-discipline, enthusiasm, perseverance, and compassion. Why is this relevant? It is relevant because the world is evolving very fast, so formal learning and training are not meeting need to quickly re-skills in their working lives due to the changes initiated with the fourth industrial revolution.
Let's come now to our next topic, which is the 21st century skills. What are the 21st century skills and its types? 21st century skills comprise skills, abilities, and learning dispositions that have been identified as being required for success in 21st century society and workplaces, specifically by educators. Many of these skills are also associated with deeper learning, which is based on mastering skills such as analytic reasoning, complex problem solving, and teamwork. The 21st century skills based on the P21's framework are consist to three categories. First, learning and innovation skills, or the 4Cs. Second, the digital literacy, and the third is the career and life skills. In learning and innovation skills, or the 4Cs, we have critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. While in digital literacy, we have information literacy, media literacy, and ICT literacy. In career and life skills, we have flexibility, initiative, productivity, and social skills.